It was like a horse that was covered in oil, like running through the center of our thing while people were shooting at it. It was just things you don't think you're ever going to see in your life.
Right.
At one point, looking around, and it was just fire everywhere I looked. Like fire everywhere. Like, where am I going to go? Where can I go? Like, if I had to escape from here, where? There is no escape. They were told that we were coming to like rape all their kids and wives and stuff.
Right.
And but one of the Iraqi, I can't remember if he's a general or somebody we captured. He was a Harvard educated,
Mm.
and he was an American. He knew America. He like lived in Boston, and he's just like, well, I mean, I make more money here. Like, I just didn't have the opportunity in America that I have here, and
Right.
I'm in charge. I'm a commander for all these people, but he's like, we had to lie to these guys to
In order to motivate them.
yeah, to keep them motivated. And the women and children would cower when they would see us. We're trying to feed them, you know. I mean, we were handing them MREs and boxes of, I mean, there's just refugees everywhere you looked. We're feeding everybody we met. I never saw one of our medics working on anybody who was an Iraqi. It was that big of a thing. Like, we were working on Iraqis, like not other Americans, because the other Americans just simply weren't getting hurt. We just had better equipment and more people. You realize later that they're using all of our old World War II equipment because we were blowing up their equipment after the war. Um, it was all just old junk, like world pineapple grenades, and just really, I'm like, well, this is what we were like. I mean, I literally watched their tank shells bounce off our new M1 tanks. Literally, just bounce right off and explode next to the tank. And you could hear the
Um,
guys on the radio going, "What is this crap?" Our guys going, "All right, well, I'm tired of chasing this guy. Just shoot him." And I mean, I sat on a hill and watched one of the best tank battles. It was just one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And I got to shoot an RPG at a tank, which was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life.
well, well, describe that. So, you can put yourself there.
Sure.
There you
That,
are sitting there
that
watching the tank battle. Describe what you're seeing.
well, that was after the war, by the way. That was the day where the war was. We were so as engineers. I don't think any other army in the world does this. Is we had these little spider mines that they would launch out of they would open up and they would like cover a football field. And these things look like I've seen pictures of them. They look like little toys. And Iraqi kids thought the same things. So they would see these little spider mines and pick them up, and that was that. Either their arm would get blown off, they'd step on it, whatever it may be. We were out blowing that stuff up. We went. They like the day the war was over. They'll say, "Okay, you're going to go up ahead of everybody." We had no like infantry with us, nothing. We were just Humvees, our track, and we were going up looking for these little things, and we'd set a charge next to it, blow it up, move on to the next one, try to find another one, and just so kids wouldn't get hurt. I
Yeah.
was in basic training when this thing kicked off, so we weren't allowed to watch television. And I mean, our guys go, "You're probably going to Iraq, and you're probably going to die." I mean, that's what the guys would say to us, the drill instructors. And it's like, well, what are they fighting about? And he's like, well, they invaded. They would tell us little bits and pieces.
So you go pretty much right from boot camp, and then I'm assuming there's some, additional training after boot camp, and then so pretty much you go boot camp training and then right into a war zone.
I went boot camp, training, airborne school,
Okay.
got injured in airborne school, injured myself, went home, got to Fort Stewart. It was empty. I mean, no one there except for like this one unit that everybody was like, this one area that everybody was shipping out of. And we would just wait for planes to come in. I didn't watch television. I didn't consume news at that time. And so I thought right when we got off the plane, I'm going to be dodging bullets. And I mean, I really had no clue. I thought it was, and I was like, man, is this Vietnam again? Like, am I going to Vietnam essentially?
Wow.
And that's how they were set. They were trying to really like put the fear of God in you. Like
Right.
this is, you're about to face your mortality. We're fighting this Republican Guard that are the biggest badasses,
Right.
and we're a mechanized unit. They're a mechanized unit.
Right.
That's what you were going to be going against the Rambos of the Iraqi army, essentially.
Oh yeah, there was all of that, you know, talk leading up to it about all of the body bags, and some body bags
Those
did come home, but yeah, no, but the first you heard about this, the first you heard about a potential conflict in the Middle East was when you were in boot camp.
boot camp, I remember exactly where I was. I was walking through a PX, and they have TVs on in the PX up above, and I saw, like, in the corner of my eye, I saw Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait, and that was really just a almost like a peripheral. Like, I go, did I just read what I? What, like, first off, I didn't really know who Saddam Hussein was at that time.
Sure.
Again, right out of high school,
Right.
dumb, however you want to put it, like not informed. Like, I'll just put it that way. So I remember seeing that in the corner of my eye, and then asking my drill sergeant about it, and he's like, "Don't worry about that." He's like, "Just concentrate on getting through basic, and we'll just, you'll deal with that. If that's still something that's happening, you'll just deal with it then."
What impact did that have on the vibe in boot
Fear,
camp? Because
fear, straight fear.
really, among the recruits, just kind of, wow, this is serious.
Some I would say 25% were like the ones that were like, let's get on the plane right now. I was probably one of those guys. Like, if they're really raping, murdering children, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, let's go stop that.
So there's Desert Shield and then Desert Storm. So how long were you there in the Desert Shield phase before the war actually starts?
Basically, November, December, and the air war started at the end of January. Um, and so, yeah, we were basically, it was just gas drills, lots of reading, a lot of boredom. Um, Dealing with Bedouins, of course, like, they would come right through they didn't care that we were there. They would just come right through the middle of our thing. And then, of course, that's, you know, security, and everybody's running with, unloaded guns, by the way. And they didn't give us bullets to the night we went over the border. They were so afraid to give us bullets. The night before we went, we had an electrical issue, and it blew up our artillery while we were at base camp 5 miles from the Iraqi border. So we thought we were under attack. Like, just explosions. Like, I mean, literally artillery went up, and people were running around crazy. We had bullets now, and so, you'd hear like sporadic gunfire. I'm like, what are they firing at? Like, I don't even know what to. Everybody got in their foxholes, and that was the first, like, taste of real fear. Yeah, even though an hour later everything's fine.
Few months of discussion about poison gas. They're going to use poison gas on a mass scale. The Republican Guard is an elite military. And so you've got all this in your head, right? That you're facing an elite military force that has all this experience fighting Iran, in the just not long before. You're going to be, you're going to have poison gas coming at you. So you've got all of these assumptions going into this fight. All right. So how long did it take, once the transition goes from Desert Shield to Desert Storm, for you to realize that the Republican Guard, that this adversary we're hearing about, that this huge fight that we're preparing for, that it's not going to happen? I mean,
Like,
did it take long that to dawn on you that, this is not going to be a really tough fight?
very quick. It was very fast. Like I said, it took, I would say, day and a half before we met any resistance.
After
Uh,
crossing the border?
Crossing the border, yeah, there's this giant berm on the border. I mean, it's 30 feet high, and we, like, blasted through it, and it was really fun to use dynamite and doing that sort of stuff. And my other big fear was the fact that we had two ammo boxes in my track that we were driving with, and one of them was filled with C4 and leaky dynamite. I was just where my big fear was driving over a mine and having it go through the bottom and hit that ammo box filled with explosives. And I go, well, I won't feel anything. I'm just going to disappear. Um, but that was like that was something I was standing on that box sometimes. So that was the one thing I was actively thinking about when we crossed the border, is like, because they said they mined everything. So my big fear was like, oh shit, so they mined everything, and not only that, we could get gassed. Well, I remember when the night though Air War started because they brought us into a tent. They said everybody sleep in your mop suit tonight. I'm like, well, that's not good. And that was that night I saw that incredible vision that I don't know how many people may have seen, but I was laying listening to Pink Floyd in my back, watching all the planes against the Milky Way go towards Baghdad. And I just saw that incredible thing. I'm watching all the planes against the Milky Way go in that direction and couldn't see or hear any, like, on the horizon way in the, I mean, we were still pretty far. We were a couple hundred miles, 300 or 400 miles. So we couldn't see anything, but I saw how many planes were going. And I'm like, man, maybe we're not going to even have to fight this thing. I mean, look at this. I mean,
Wow.
it's just nonstop it was for 4 hours straight, like just planes and planes and planes. And once that started happening, there was a light at the end of the tunnel because I was thinking, is this Vietnam? I could be here for a year, and that's how we're just going to be cycled out every year.
Right.
And the second that started happening, I'm like, no, this is not Vietnam. Look up, and the entire thing is a white cloud of vehicles coming my way. And we are 10 miles ahead of everybody. We're out in the middle of nowhere in Humvees and tracks. And there's no, and I'm like, what is that? Went and grabbed some binoculars, looked, and it is Iraqi vehicles coming towards us. Like just a wall of, it looked like a sandstorm because there was so much sand in the air
Right.
from the vehicle driving. And I said, Lieutenant, and he's like, get in the vehicle. We like ran in. He's like, he started calling it in, and we started driving back. And as he's like, as we're almost, we see tanks going this way and helicopters going that way. And so he's like, we're just gonna pull up on that hill over there and just watch this. And so that's what we did. We just, me and this other, I don't even know which lieutenant it was, to be honest with you. But I sat up there and we were watching them. We were listening on the radio, listening to our crews talking, and just watching them play with these guys. I mean, they were playing with them. You on the radio, they're like, "This is a joke." I mean, our M1 tanks could go 50, 60 miles an hour, and their tanks could go maybe 15, 20, maybe. And it was just kind of like sad to watch because it was not an effort for any of us. I mean, I just made you really proud to be an American. Like, I know how weird that sounds, but you're watching this and you're like, wow, like we are really not messing around. When I was pulled back from that first night, there were helicopters, explosions, people explode. I've seen people explode. Uh,
I mean,
I watched
Iraqis.
I watched a guy step on a mine. Not pleasant. Iraqis. Now, I never saw any Americans hurt. The only American I saw hurt was after the war, and he got hit by a truck thing in an accident.
As you're watching these Iraqi vehicles just being decimated, are some Iraqis, jumping out of their vehicles and trying to surrender?
Uh, that first night was hard to tell because it was black. I mean, again, it was dark out, and I was only given the night vision. He would just hand them to me whenever he didn't need them. So I would just sit there and watch this craziness going on. And not that first night, no. I didn't see anybody actively trying to surrender. Um, the only people we saw prior to that, they weren't soldiers though. They were just refugees walking. That was again the first people we encountered were just refugees. These poor families, children and women, with everything they had, walking in the opposite direction that we were going. And we were, like I said, we fed them. We were throwing MREs at them and stuff. And that first night, no, there was no. It wasn't until we got to this village where we had dropped these pamphlets. I would say that. So the first night, no. I would say on day two, which was actually about day three because we drove for a whole day and a half or so. That third day in that village, all over were pamphlets that had like a cartoon. If you give up, you're with your family, and they show you a family with your arm around your children and everything. And on the other side says, if you pick up a gun, you have X's over your eyes. And that village had, like, next to that leaflet was military equipment. So somebody read that leaflet and just stripped off all their military equipment right there, including their boots. All of them had that. If you had any military equipment on you, there's just piles of clothing and military equipment everywhere. And that's just, they just stripped it all off and got in with the other refugees, which is what we thought. And so we had to actually start separate. That's when you started becoming into like crowd control, where those guys were hiding amongst them. So we were just trying to find them and separate them out, the military aged men. And yeah, they were giving up, and that was on day three. What is it, 5 day war? So it was like day three that was the first time we saw them actively like, yeah, I don't want any part of this. Please don't kill me. But the first night, no, that was a battle. They fought.
Wow.
They were on. The only people I saw getting out of the trucks were on fire. I mean, that's it. I mean, to be blunt, the only Iraqis I saw were basically pretty much. I saw a lot of people on fire.
You say in what you've written, you talk on the one hand about this overwhelming military power, and of course, in this operation, there are so many countries involved, but the United States is the primary power, and that's what you're witnessing. Um, and how impressive and kind of overwhelming that was. You also say that, you felt sorry at a certain point, pretty quickly. You're feeling sorry for the Iraqis. I think, you just talked about this image you still have in your mind of seeing, Iraqis on fire. Um, but just, dispel that out a little bit, that feeling of, feeling sorry for the Iraqis in the course of this operation. What kind of things, you've already said something, what kind of things did you see that led you to feel a little sympathy for them?
Uh, well, the fact their equipment, they were under equipped. And when we talked to that guy that first day, one of the first that he says, yeah, we're lying to them, telling them we're on the border.
The
And I heard,
officer says we're lying to the soldiers to,
yeah, and I heard that. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I really started feeling these poor guys. And then when he told me how much they were eating, that really struck me. I'm like, how are you able to like walk, much less on a spoonful of rice a day and water in this heat? And in this type of environment, the sand, and it was very, very like difficult to hear that. And then like when you saw seeing those refugees, the first people we saw weren't as soldiers; they were people. They were wives and kids that we just displaced them. We did this. These people are walking this way because, well, he shouldn't have invaded them. It really is Saddam's fault. That's why we're here. But at the same time, these people's lives are now being disrupted, and I am seeing them physically. I mean, these people were dirty. They were bleeding in some cases. We would like I said, starving. Some kids were like just starving. Why? I mean, I watched a kid just dump a whole. I told him, we told him not to do it. Like he was dumping the dry coffee in his mouth because he just wanted something in his body. And it was hard to watch. Like that stuff is like even those like hardcore guys that I was with would see those kids starving and they were melting a little. Like that facade dropped a little. Like, oh, we need to get that kid food. I didn't expect it and see it, and I think that's what it was. Is the second you saw that we were decimating. I mean, there's no other word. I mean, it was rough to watch. Yes, like it was just they did fight back. I don't want to make it sound like it was like we rolled over them. I mean, we did, but they did fight back. I did feel in danger. Like I was good. Like that first night, that was the night I thought, well, this is it. Because it was just chaos. I mean, chaos everywhere I looked, chaos, screaming, smelling human people burn like that. Human hair burning is it just gets up in your nose and would not leave. And then you just see these poor people pouring out of vehicles on fire and stuff, and yeah, like it's just when you feel they're people, you hear their screams, you know, and you're like, yeah, these are people. I think when reality sunk in to a lot of these guys and they saw that these were just people defending their homeland, our fight really wasn't with them. Our fight was with their leadership and in their invasion of that country. And really, who we should have been killing was everybody who was in Kuwait. We should have been in Kuwait murdering, killing those, wiping those people. Those are the people that were actually doing the killing and stuff. Not these guys. These guys are here on the where they think they're on the border of their country when they're 2 days in, and they're being lied to. So it was very, you start getting all this information, start putting it together. You're like, okay, well, okay, these are not just dirtbag people that we need to put in the ground. It's basically how we were told to do it. It's like these are people, and I don't feel comfortable. These people didn't do anything. It's those people in Kuwait who did it. Those soldiers in Kuwait who were doing all the things. And why aren't we going there and fixing it there? So that was kind of what
Yeah.
I was hit with. And it's
Yeah.
just, again, seeing all that violence and no one ever talks about the smells of war. That's the stuff that doesn't go away. If I smell tear gas, even if it's you know, far from me, I'm instantly right back there because we could smell tear gas. That was another thing that was kind of like in the air. People were just popping off tear gas and stuff, and so that brings me right back to it. If I smelt some human, I burnt some hair on my arm once accidentally, instantly there, right back in Iraq. I mean, I still see the people in my dreams. For years, it was just seeing those dead people talking to me. They're just staring at me, fields of them, and it was just like those burned people. I mean, I'll tell you the thing that bothered me the most. After the first night, after all that carnage and chaos was done, we we were below a freeway, which was called Highway 8. This one they called the Highway of Death. It was between Basra and Baghdad. And you can go look at photos from 91 of what it looked like. That was us. We did that. And we were driving up the hill to get onto the freeway, and there was a guy laying on the ground, and his leg was like bent all the way up past his ears, and he was burnt, I would say. And I saw this guy, and I was like, my God, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? And we got up on the freeway and started driving the opposite direction to him. And I looked back, and he was waving a white flag. He was still alive. And I mean, this whole area was open. There was no rib cage or anything. And he's still alive, and he's waving a white flag. And I'm like, let me go out and shoot that guy. But like, I never want to kill anybody in my life. Like, never felt that. But that guy just wanted to say, like, I wanted to put him out of his misery. Even if he survives, I don't know how he survives. It's like it really to say it bothered me is a big understatement because that is when I saw that guy and he was still alive, I started questioning everything. Like, why are we doing this? These aren't the right guys. This guy didn't kill any Kuwaiti. That was the stuff that started bothering me. It's like, I understand it's all part of the same big army and everything. I get that. But the fact that this guy didn't actually commit any atrocities and he's like lying on the ground like that really, really bothered me. And the fact that it's like, and when we came back, when we were turned around and we're driving back to Saudi Arabia, we got to see everything we did, all the skeletons, and they were all sitting out in the sun the whole time, and there were birds picking eyes out. It was like going through a movie set, and you're like, my thought was and we had these things called ace movers, and they're just basically like armored earth movers. They would just they had like a scooper in the front and they could just dig. So they were basically just digging these giant holes, turning around, taking that vehicle and pushing it right into the dirt and then pushing dirt right over it. And I was thinking to myself the entire time, their parents are never going to know where they are. They're never going to know where their son is. I was really feeling these poor people will never know where their kids are. And they're just on a hole somewhere in the desert. And that really upset me. I mean, that was like the most upsetting thing is seeing the aftermath of what we did because it was just brutal. I mean, we just left them out there in the sun to bake in the sun, and
Yeah.
it was you just don't. It's just the aftermath. You think you're doing the right thing, and then you're like, oh, I see aftermath of what I did, what we did.
Do you think, I mean, I'm imagining actually witnessing the highway of death. And I mean, you're witnessing it up close, right? So that by itself is going to take its own toll. I wonder if that experience is all the harder because what you see on the highway of death and other places, but what you see in the highway of death isn't the result of anything approaching a fair fight. Yeah, I
No,
mean, it really does look like, at some point, it just looks like these guys got slaughtered, literally and just as an expression. Do you think, in a sense, that kind of that if it had been, this is just a mental exercise, just to kind of think through your own experience, but if it had been a little more of a fair fight and the result was the same, do you think it would make any difference in how you process it now?
yeah, but most of our, like I said, most of our soldiers are surrounded by next gen armor. We were. I mean, I watched a track. The thing I feared the most, the track vehicle going over mine. I watched it happen, and one of the track, I didn't know what happened. I just saw this track fly up into the air, like 5, 10 feet, and then crash back down, and that was it. They had the same explosives we did, and it couldn't penetrate the with the bottom, even the crappiest armor it couldn't penetrate. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay.
This was, I mean, so obviously an unequal fight, and as you say, I mean, they're the enemy, but they're also human beings, and what you're seeing, the scenes that you're witnessing, just that sense that um, this was just because my understanding is that well, you've got this convoy on the highway, and it's most, if not all, of the damage is being done by planes, right? They're just getting
Yeah,
hammered from the air.
yeah, helicopters too. I'll tell like a really quick cool. I mean, one of the coolest things I saw, and it's again terrible. Like what the aftermath of it, seeing the aftermath of it made me reevaluate. But just how it looked like a movie. I couldn't. There's no other way to put it. So we were below the highway again, and we're just kind of highways here, and we're kind of facing the same direction like that. And I'm looking up, and I see a truck with no. I have the night vision, and I see a truck on the freeway coming towards us, no headlights on, and filled with people and guns. And I'm like, Sergeant Stewart, there's a truck. I'm like locked and loaded. I locked and loaded at that point because I'm like, wow, this is my chance. I'm like, this guy, I think I could hit this guy from here. Like he's coming towards me. Like I think I just wait, and I got the night vision on. I'm like, I have all these fantasies. Just within seconds, I'm like fantasizing about what a hero I'm about to be. And then I just happened to like peek my head up, and there was just a helicopter floating there. And I'm like, whoa, shit, I didn't see that. And it shoots, whites everything out, for a sec. And when it comes back, that truck is just flipping like end over end on the freeway, like a movie. And what goes up in the air and explodes in midair. It was again whited out my night vision again. Incredible, like one of the best things. And then it rolled down the other side of the freeway. Well, the next morning when we got to the other side of the freeway, a lot of those guys unfortunately survived that and were trying to get out of the truck and were like burned, frozen in place, trying to get like I can't even. I can still see it. Some of them were burnt, melted into a chain link fence. It was just the coolest thing I ever saw. One of the coolest things we've ever seen in real life. But then afterwards, then reevaluating everything, the humanity comes back to you. You're like, oh shit, there were people in there. Like I really, even though I saw all the people, but I was just like, I cannot believe I just saw that. And I may be the only person who saw it, because I don't know who else was looking at it and realize, oh, these are all just people, and then I would talk to them. That's the other thing. We're not, it's not like we're like, they're right there. You're handing them food and a lot of them speak English because of movies, American movies. It was so strange. Like they were happy to see us and not happy to see us at the same time because we were feeding them. And I think, again, a lot of the women would tell us like, oh, you're going to rape and murder us. I'm like, I don't think so. No, in fact, I know for a fact we're not. Here's some food. Be on your way. And they literally were just, some women would run out into the thing. We'd have to go catch them and like, no one's going to hurt you. My brain was actively protecting me from trauma, where I was looking at a body in the front seat and something was wrong with it. I couldn't tell. My brain was like, something was wrong. I kept saying, like, what is wrong with what I'm looking at? And from behind me, I hear that. I can still hear him saying it exactly. This guy named Dion. He said, oh shit, his head's missing. And the second he said that and I blinked, his head disappeared. My brain filled in a head to protect me from trauma. Like I actively saw it happening. Like I don't know if that's normal. I don't know, like, but whatever. My brain was like, yeah, you're just gonna see a person here. And then the second he said that, the head disappeared. We stopped in this village, and we were just supposed to like look for military age men. And I teamed up with this guy named Sergeant Melendez. And so we're going house to house, and there's just nothing, and there's no people. And I see this kid. He's like at the end of the house, and he's just standing there. I went in, he wasn't there. I came out, he's just standing there, and he's standing weird. But he couldn't have been 12, 15, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. And I had because I just got done looking through the house, I had my weapon slung. Stupid. I should have unslung it before I walked out the door. Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're trained to. But I was like, while I was searching, I slung it and was kind of looking through stuff and making sure I didn't, that looks like a box, don't open it. I was like safeguarding myself. Walk out, see that kid, and as I'm looking at him, I am turning my rifle around, and just then he had an AK-47 leaning up against his back leg. That's why he was standing weird, and he just came out. And when I start to do because everything moved to slow motion, like I, I is for real. Everything went to slow motion, and I see this kid pulling this gun out. I'm like, and I had the thought, this is it. You know, you had a good run. He's got you. There's no way you're gonna. And it jammed. Like AK-47s don't jam. You could stuff you could stuff the barrel with mud and still fire it. It just had a mischambered round, and that is rare apparently. Everybody told me that you're lucky. You're lucky that they don't jam. And anyway, so he's moving in slow motion, and I hear that click. Again, I have no conscious memory of moving. I covered that 10 feet in a second. I don't know how I did it. I don't remember doing it. And I hit that kid so hard because I didn't have my rifle all the way out yet. So it was still kind of slung to my body, like it's still wrapped around me. So I turned, I had to use my upper body to hit him. And I just hit him with the butt of the gun. And this kid like literally slid across the ground. That's how hard I hit him. But he wasn't knocked out. He kind of like goes like, oh, and like, of course, Melendez runs out and he's like, are you okay? And he's like, but then people come over, let's just put a round in his head and da 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 da. I'm like, no. He's a kid. We just took his gun away from him and and walked. And after that experience, like I said, everything went to slow motion, and I felt like euphoric. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like euphoria after I realized I'm not going to die. They took that kid off somewhere. I don't know where he went. I don't know what happened to him. But that experience changed my life. We were on our way to Baghdad. So when we got pulled back, so when the plans changed, that was the plan. Was okay. So we're going to Baghdad now. We're on our way. Like we were driving there, and the night before the war ended, we were parked and trying to sleep. They were shooting uh, cannons, artillery all night to wherever we were going the next day
Toward Baghdad, or is
towards
it
Baghdad. And I was all night thinking, since I couldn't sleep, since every time they fired one, the ground would shake. Um, I was thinking, man, I can't wait to see what we're doing. And I remember walking to get coffee that morning. The guy goes, "War's over." What? What? War's over. Turn around. Turn your vehicle around. I'm like, well, I'm not the driver. He's like, go turn your vehicle around. The war's over. I go first off, well, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even, I was so tired and I hadn't slept for days. And he just kept saying, war's over, war's over. So the way he said it was just like, I could barely, it's unintelligible almost. Really hit me is when I got back. And the second we got back, they're like, we can authorize up to 30 days of leave right now, whether you're in the hole or not. And everybody, 30 days, please. Yeah, I need to get back to my family. And I realized when I got back that I couldn't deal with my family. I couldn't. First off, there were new rules all of a sudden. Like my old, like I was expected to be that person again. Like take out the trash, do that, do this. No, I just almost died for you. You take out the trash. Like I started getting that. Like I did more. I just got back from this. We had a party. My aunt asked me to clean all the dishes at my party. She's like, "You can start washing all the dishes." I go, "This is my party. Why would I wash the dishes?" And remember, I was very quiet and introverted, and that person was gone. And my friends, my high school friends, didn't know how to deal with this new, like, they would ask me a question, and I would like, "What do you mean by that?" Like, everything was um, the stuff that they worried about didn't. I wasn't worried about anymore. Like, I mean, when you face your mortality, when you almost die, you realize, oh, this is just a job. Like any job you get, this is not, I'm not going to die. Like, I'm not going to die. So I'm not going to take this as seriously as I would if I was going to die. So, I mean, I think it just helped me kind of prioritize what was important. And I couldn't relate to my friends anymore. The stuff that they were worried about, girls and this, and I just was like, well, man, I mean, I'm dealing with a lot. I didn't realize it. I also didn't realize at the time I was dealing with PTSD. I was slowly broke. I was broken the whole time. You know, fractures would begin to appear. My drinking was out of control. Like I said, I would drink to make it so I wouldn't dream, and I would hide bottles, places, and stuff like that.
it seems almost inevitable to me that what a person experiences in combat. So you have this combat experience, and then you come back, to the world. You come back to normal life in the States. And it seems almost inevitable to me that, at least for most combat veterans, there's going to be a chasm between the combat vet and everyone else, because the combat vet has just had not just experiences that other people haven't had, but I mean, some of the most intense stuff that a human being can experience. And it seems that, that inevitably would create, I don't want, maybe not inevitably, but it seems like it would, probably create some kind of sense of, I don't know if alienation is a good word, or somehow create a barrier between me and everyone else, just because I've got these experiences that hardly anyone can relate to.
Yeah, I mean, that that is very true. I mean, that's exactly, yeah, it's tough to relate. My when I was getting my when I was going through my, I talked to this colonel person at the VA hospital. He told me specifically, in every combat vet, if you're in a combat environment, combat theater, your brain waves change forever, and you are no longer like everybody else because your brainwaves are off. That's why a lot of people come back and they just cannot connect with people the way they used to. I experienced this myself, my friends. I couldn't connect. And he said even people like reporters, like I said, I was always impressed how the CNN vans got to where we were. We're in track vehicles and they're in a damn GMC van somehow, and they're beating us to the war site sometimes. We would see the CNN van with the cameras shooting this stuff before we got there. And I was like, well, that's a pretty good van if it can drive in this environment. But that when he said that, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. They all saw me as that guy. They didn't realize, they can't realize, they can't see, they can't know what it's like to be around that much death.